so we're moving along on that social ecological model. So here's some other things about step 3 is at the individual level, middle and high school students, strengthening youth engagement, increasing their knowledge, hopefully improving their attitudes or getting them to understand and be able to talk more about healthy relationships and have them develop skills, practice skills for healthy relationships. Some of the things that we do in classrooms when we teach adolescent relationship abuse is just to start getting them talking about things. Is, in a classroom we will use, we'll have them play a game and we want them engaged and participating, and so we'll say, this is a forced choice game, and so everybody in this room is going to stand up and we're going to have I'm going to say something, and you are going to, let's say this line here is the line, and if you think yes, you'll go to this side of the room, and if you say no, you go to that side of the room. And so we'll throw out statements like, it's okay for your boyfriend or girlfriend to text you 25 times in a day. And kids either pick here or here, and then we say, okay, why? And it isn't that one kid is right or wrong, or one side is right or wrong. We want them to start talking about why they think that. And we don't really say anything. They start talking about, well, why would you want someone texting you that many times about where you are or what you're doing? And then we'll say, how about, especially in middle school, high school too, we will say it's okay for your parent to check your cell phone at any time. Yes or no? And so they'll go to one side or the other, and then they talk about it. And some kids will say, absolutely not, my life is private. And then some kids will say, no, your parents know things you don't know, and they know what's alarming, they know a way you might not. And so it really, they can plant the seeds to then start having conversations. So that's some of the things that we do at the individual level, or you could do in any classroom that you're working in. We want to also promote pro-social behavior and social and emotional behavior and skills, and teach positive bystander behavior and interventions so that a kid feels empowered in a school. Like say, they see a guy or a girl push their partner up against a locker and start, kissing and, kind of really forcefully. If they don't feel comfortable saying, hey, they can go to a teacher and say, I'm just seeing this. I don't know that the person who's against the locker wants that. I'm not sure. So that they feel empowered. That's bystander behavior. So then as we go back to that graphic of the social ecological model, moving out to the relational level, parents, caregivers, older peers, like say high school students who may be teaching middle school at that individual level, maybe high schoolers are doing the activities I just talked about, which is incredibly powerful to have high schoolers maybe teaching middle schoolers, because if someone my age is standing up in front of a middle schooler, it's not anywhere near as empowering as or powerful as a high schooler, because they are really that's who I want to be when I'm in 9th grade or 10th grade. So anyway, strengthening knowledge and attitudes, and for promoting healthy relationships. So really getting adults on that speaking that same language, understanding the behaviors that we're trying to promote, so that the messaging is consistent and at different levels. So they're hearing it in school from peers, and then they're hearing it from parents. And then we move out again, if you think about that graphic, moving out to the community level, school, what does the school climate look like? Like I said, are there healthy relationship posters in the school? Is it something that we talk about in all our classes? This is something that you can definitely talk about in some way in a math class. I mean, you can make word problems around this kind of stuff probably if you wanted to, so that you're planting those seeds even though you're teaching a different topic. Supporting youth-driven marketing campaigns, so that, like we talked about those posters, youth-driven, they kind of really resonate with youth, and putting those posters all around the school, putting them on the back of bathroom stall doors, what does the school climate look like? Is this a school climate, say if I'm a student in a school and I am sexually assaulted or raped, do I feel like I could go to a school counselor? Do I feel like it's an environment where I would be supported if I reported? And then moving out, again, one level out to the society level, engaging in social change efforts that address the structural forms of violence. And when we talk about that, we talk about gender equity, equal pay, all of those things that are sort of much bigger and broader in terms of scope, and you might not think affect relationship abuse, but they really do. They're those undercurrents of like unequal pay for men and women, or marginalized communities not welcome. Those are the kind of things that really don't necessarily per se directly affect violence, but they support attitudes of it's okay to treat someone from a marginalized community or population in a way that's not equal to someone else, or just so those structural things in our culture that support violence and inequality. Again, smart strategies, keeping youth involved and organizing, especially youth from marginalized communities. So we really want a very colorful group of people, very different, on so many levels. That's good for us. But it's vital for our prevention strategy. Another smart strategy is having strategies build on one another. Don't do just one thing. We want to really try to be working on different things. Like, you don't want to just do those classroom things. You want to try to have your collaborative be active enough that you're working on different pieces of it at the same time. Like, say we need to strengthen something at the state level for a law. We're doing the education in the classroom too, so that we're really building a movement. And again, I cannot emphasize enough having youth voices at the center of our work, and really using popular culture that really resonates with teens and adolescents. Some of the things that the coalition have done, the campaigns, have been when the Hunger Games and Catching Fire were released. They were at the opening and had a whole kind of educational piece around Katniss Everdeen and PETA versus the other guy, Gale, and how what Katniss isn't your stereotypical female. She has a lot of strong characteristics. She's physically strong. She's good with a bow and arrow, and she's very much outspoken, and that's not stereotypical feminine. And how PETA is more artistic and has some characteristics that we might say those are feminine characteristics, but they're just really more just comprehensive, that it's okay to be all of those things regardless of your gender. It's okay to be a male and be artistic and be sensitive, and it's okay to be a female and be strong and physical and outspoken. And so using the pop culture that really resonates with youth and talking about healthy relationships, gender identity, and gender inequities and things like that. So, and youth will help with that. Youth will say, you know what, nobody really likes Hunger Games anymore. That's out. It's this. This is what we like. We like, whatever that thing is, and using that to really challenge ideas. And also know that as people are doing this work, as schools are doing this work, there's help. There's help at the coalition. There's help at the national level. Lots of different people have ideas, and it's okay to say, I don't even know what to do next. Call somebody who's doing this work every day, and figure that out. And then really with youth using, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. January is Stalking Awareness Month. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, Child Abuse Awareness Month. There's so much going on with awareness things, almost more than you could probably keep up with. But pick something and then have an activity around it that and the coalition, these are just some examples, they do a writing challenge for Love What's Real, and then they have a poetry slam in February where kids can come in and read their poems that they wrote. And the really neat thing about that is a few years ago, lots of kids wrote poems from around the state and did some writing and took that challenge, but no one felt really good. Like I think maybe one kid read their own poem, and they had BSU students and actors read those poems for them. And now very, very few people are reading someone else's poem. Kids are there reading their own poems. And so it feels like we're getting some momentum in a movement. In May, I think it's May 8th, there's an event called Chalk Art, where in downtown, schools around Boise, and actually it's an invitation, or every community around the state can do this. But here in Boise, it's May 8th, and they take one piece of writing from that writing contest and do a visual, a chalk drawing of it. And so May 8th is that challenge. So we're trying to engage the writing and the art, and then, and then we create an event around it that gets kids talking, gets kids aware, makes them think about things. And so those are just a few ideas of things communities can do. Really, policy can sound really boring, but when your policy is around a really important topic and about something so much bigger than a thing, but it's about people's lives, and it's about our youth, and how adolescent relationship abuse and sexual assault affects an adolescent's future, and how when you experience relationship abuse or sexual assault, it's this vicious cycle, because it makes you more vulnerable to future abuse. There's so many things. It's like I said, it's almost this never-ending circle if you're caught up in it. We have victims who come to us and say, I was abused and I know better. It happened once and it'll never happen again. But more often than not, we have people coming into programs who have been chronically abused, chronically sexually assaulted over a lifetime. It may have started as a sexual assault incident from a family member or a trusted adult in their life, but then that led to depression, anxiety, trauma, PTSD, that then made them more vulnerable to a relationship in their teens that was abusive. And so people care about that, and people want to get involved, I think. Most people, and that's all you need is most people. So policy, that's a long way around my point of policy can be boring, but I don't think policy around this topic can be boring. I think we can make it exciting because, again, it does resonate with everyone. 2 weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C., and we were meeting with all our congressional representatives, and as you know, Idaho is somewhat conservative, and some of these things that we're talking about, social justice, social service things need money, and typically we don't want to fund those. And anyway, we were talking to one of our members of Congress who is rated very, very, very conservative, and we thought, well, as we message our adolescent relationship abuse, talk to that member of Congress, what would resonate more with them? Just the more soft-sided, this is a bad thing we don't want to happen to people, or do we want a prevention message that saves taxpayer dollars? Because ultimately, the more we have, the fewer kids youth who are experiencing adolescent relationship abuse, then the fewer adults we have, the fewer, all these other things will save money in the long run. We know that $1 spent on prevention saves lots and lots of dollars down the road. And so we thought, well, that's the angle we're going to take with this member of Congress. And when we were going through all that, our dollars of savings, and we said, the Holt Arena visual, we half fill that. He said, stop right there. That's where you have me. You have me at that, because I'm a father and I have a daughter. And so you got me on that. And so it was sort of a lesson to us, like, oh, here we were trying to think we were talking to someone who only cared about money, but this is a topic that they care about, and you know, we can move from there. That's all we need. We need someone to agree that we need to address this, and then we work on it at the policy level too. So policy change is, like I said, it seems boring, but I don't really think it is. Policy can change school climate. If we have a principal that wants to make sure our schools are a positive environment, that really sort of when you walk into the school, you feel like this is a really positive place. All the messaging on the boards around the hallways is positive. There's not graffiti in the bathrooms. When graffiti happens, it's removed immediately. Those are the kind of things that create school climate and really start making people feel emotionally safe, physically safe. When we have policies in schools that really address, teachers are on it when something happens. Kids know that if something happens, there's going to be a consequence. You know, it's just natural for us to push our limits. And so when nothing happens, if someone's bullying, if someone knows they can get away with something in a place, then they tend to do it more. And so when we have schools and climates and policies that support kids, this not happening, then you know, those are the kind of things that we're working on with this policy. So in addition to supporting a positive school climate and changing social norms, school policies promote healthy relationships in the intervention and response and treatment of adolescent dating abuse, adolescent relationship abuse, sexual assault. And you know, typically, kids don't report at school, and so when they do, when schools are a comfortable and open place for that kind of reporting, this policy will help make that streamlined. You know, I'll close with a story about a teen who I think of often when she was raped, and she didn't necessarily report that rape to school. I don't know if she did or not, because I was working with her and her mom, but what ended up happening was that pieces of that response were really good, and other pieces of that response, and when were awful, just awful. And you know, as one piece of the response system, and watching how I have a control over this piece, and I can do this really well, but I can't fix anything else about it for this girl. I can't fix the fact that a cop wants to use a nude photo of her that was sent consensually against her, rather than dealing with her rape. I can't deal, you know, I personally as an advocate couldn't help that, but you know, I think if this policy were in place and everybody at the table knew the best practices, things could be so much better for that girl. We know that people are resilient, and that when we support them, that we can help. And so, you know, this is some of the reasons why I do this work and why it's so important. And I think we need all those people at the table. So my contact information is up here, and I'm happy to answer any kinds of questions that you have. We're wrapping up a little earlier, but I know you want me to stand here and talk for another hour, half hour, don't you? Next topic. Thanks.